right.
of side that you agree with.
Of course, right. Okay.
I mean, and there's nobody above you to tell you,
right. I guess
you can't put this in or that in. It's all what you want to do and how you feel about it.
I get it. I guess I'm not saying that it's objective, but I find that, and that you're saying it's completely subjective, from the point of view of the filmmaker. But I find that the more compelling documentaries at least present several sides.
Well, yeah, because it makes a great story, right? You want to know all the different elements and everything.
And I don't mind. Yeah. And also there's I find that of documentaries that are end in a certain amount of ambiguity and put the sort of, moral or even, the final chapter of the story in the hands of the viewer.
Right. Well, what you do too with comedy, with interviewing, is very documentary in style.
For sure.
I know you're also an actor, but it is, you get to the rawness, you get to the realness when you're doing comedy. You use the things that are very close to you and very important to you.
Right. And I never claimed, I never claimed to be a journalist. Sometimes it gets hung on me, but I refuse to take it because I guess, I got that. So, but that's true. It's because I don't follow any rules around this stuff.
Right.
But sometimes because of that, I get done with an interview or a few days later, I'm like, fuck, why didn't I ask him that? I mean, that was basic shit, and I blew it.
Well, I bet you don't blow it. I bet that, the things that you did ask, if it's not there, forget about it. You just have to go on with what is there.
Right. But have you ever gotten done with something and been like, oh my God, how did I not
Yes, of course. Yes.
It's not a great feeling.
But I let it go.
Well, it's just like you said to me today that, that Reagan had his guy in Mexico meeting with the Iranians. You're like, I could have used that a year ago.
I know. Why did you just tell me now? I know. It would have been wonderful.
Well, how was it different when you did American Dream? I mean, what from going, and I know these are movies people are going to have to go look for, but there was a difference in how you approached it, wasn't it? Because there were similar issues, right?
Yeah, it was union issues. It was the Hormel meat packing company taking away the wages of, dropping the wages of the people who worked there.
Right.
And it was the same kind of thing. Your grandfather, your father all worked there. But there were, it was a much more complex film. And plus, of course, they decided to go on strike in the middle of a Minnesota winter. So sometimes it was 60 below with the wind chill factor. And, I used to pray that the camera's battery would stop for a minute so we could go in a car with heat. And it was tough making these films because you were always struggling for money to keep going. And I remember one morning after I'd been out on the picket line from 3:00 in the morning till 7:00 in the morning and freezing, I went into the union and the hall, and somebody said, Barbara, your office is on the phone. And I went, okay. And I got on the phone and they said, Barbara, you only have $250 left in the bank. What are you going to do? And I just went, what do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm freezing. I've been filming all night long outside every night. And then they called back about 4 or 5 hours later. And I said, oh, I know what they're going to say. I don't want to talk now. They said, it's your office. You have to talk. So I got on the phone and they said, we just got $25,000 from Bruce Springsteen.
Come on.
And I just burst into tears. I was so happy. So, because we had been writing to him because he was, doing a lot of union things at that time. And finally, just when we needed it, when we had nothing, he gave us $25,000 and it just I was so happy. I was crying, jumping around. I couldn't believe it. It meant I could still go on.
So that's part of your MO, is to just keep pushing and pushing,
Yes.
and you chose Bruce.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Perseverance, it's called. Yeah.
But you focus. I mean, like you know what you want out of a specific person. You wanted to talk to Jimmy Carter, and you knew that Bruce, if he could only see what you were up to, would gladly give you some money.
And he did. He saved us. Making films like this is just so incredible. You never know what you're going to do next. It's so exciting. I mean, I've done, films on Woody Allen.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You've done films on I never saw the JFK one, but I did see Wild Man Blues. So American Dream is 1990. And then what are these Homicide: Life on the Street?
Oh, that's fun. The Tom Fontana.
But that became a TV show, didn't it?
It was a series. I also did Oz.
Oh, you directed the TV show.
Yeah. And, they gave me a hard time on the first one, but I was totally unfazed by it. I mean, Yaphet Kotto said there was a whole big meeting, and he said, listen, Barbara, he said, I'm not really saying anything in this scene. And I said, yeah, but Yaphet, these are your guys. You're interested in this. I said, and when we put the camera on you, that's the money shot. And he went, oh. And then he loved it. And Andrew Brower, it was a barroom scene. He said, okay, so you're a documentarian. That means you only do one shot. And I said, no, absolutely not. I said, a good documentarian stays there, even if it's all night until we get everything. So,
that's not what he wanted to hear.
Okay, that's not what he wanted to hear. But, I figured if I was machine gunned in Harlan County, I could understand and work with actors and not be afraid if they tried to intimidate me. I had a great time there because we all lived there in Baltimore, and we'd go out after we'd shoot and we'd have drinks and talk with each other. And it was a wonderful community. It was a great experience.
Well, that's what happens with those longer running shows.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to sort of know each other. So you've done a lot of TV work, in other words.
I've done TV work, yeah.
But like Woody Allen, so like the shift in documentaries, from union issues, life or death issues, and then you start doing some celebrity-centric pieces. What compelled that?
People would call up and say, how would you like to do a film on Woody Allen? We have a budget. We have everything. And how could you ever turn that down?
So that wasn't your idea?
No, it wasn't my idea.
And this is before Woody was in trouble?
No, Woody was in trouble because he went with Suni on this trip. But, I love Woody Allen. I think he's a terrific comic. I think he's, a really interesting, smart human being. And he let me do whatever I wanted. I mean, I even had a key to his hotel room. And so I would just come in and start shooting and film them at breakfast or,
Well, that's right. That's with and he's with Suni the whole time.
Suni the whole time. Yes. And all my feminist friends, you can't do that. I said, of course I'm going to do that. I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do. I'm definitely doing.
And what was the pushback specifically about? Just the seeming inappropriateness?
Yes, with Suni.
Right. And I kind of, now I remember that. They just, what do you think he was doing by making himself available for whatever you wanted to do at that time? Was he normalizing the situation?
No. He was just being himself. He was on a jazz tour and he loves music. And if somebody could do a film on something that he loves so much, it was good. It was fine with him. And when we were editing, he would call me all the time and he would say, okay, Barbara, can I see it? And I'd say, no, Woody, it's 8 hours long. And so then he'd call back and I'd say, no, Woody, it's 5 hours long. And then finally he said, I'm coming. And then it was 3 hours long. And so he came, and he and Suni watched it, and we watched them sort of holding on to each other and laughing and almost seeing their relationship come alive. And at the end of it, he stood up. I knew he thoroughly enjoyed it. And he just said, well, you've got some editing to do.
So he saw it as a movie, but he also saw it as sort of a home movie in a way.
Well, but he kept asking me to come, and I kept saying it wasn't ready because it was too long. And then his last comment was, yeah, I know. I've been trying to tell you this, but he loved the film. He loved it.
And you never, because I certainly loved Woody Allen too, but now it's like, everything is thrown into a sort of moral chaos around him. You didn't feel at any point during your time with him that he felt that he was doing something wrong?
No.
Yeah.
He was so happy. It was, sort of a film about youth and age, and she always wanted to go out, and he wanted to stay home and, or stay in his hotel room and read and get ready. And and she just brought life into his world, and they had an incredibly wonderful time together. They're still together. They have 2 adopted children, and they seem so happy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What about this sort of like the Gregory Peck thing? Whose idea was that?
Well, one of my really good friends is Cecilia Peck, who's Greg's daughter. And we were working on a film, and she moved to New York. I had met her in Cannes, and I said, well, why don't you just come to New York and I'll give you a job? And we just became really very close friends. And she said, so my father's doing a one-man show and nobody's filming it. And I went, okay, we'll go and we'll do one, performance.
Yeah.
And we went, and I couldn't stop. I mean, he was so brilliant and so charming, and it's as if he really was Atticus Finch. I mean, just a brilliant, wonderful man.
How old was he at that point?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
He was an old guy, right?
An older guy, yeah. Yeah.
So you really saw what made him great.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so nice, and the film went to the Cannes Film Festival, and he just was so low key and so happy to have that film there. And he told us that it was his second favorite film next to To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow.
So that meant everything, a great deal.
That's sweet. And how about your experience with features? Are you going to try, are you done with them or what?
No, I'm going to try to do another one. And I'm in the midst of trying to get the rights to it. It's a book that a friend of mine wrote a long time ago, and I'm not going to say what it is till I get the rights to it, but I think it's going to be absolutely amazing.
And what's the process once you get the rights to a book? Do you write the script?
No, I'm not going to write the script. I'll work with a screenwriter.
Okay.
My writing is not up to the par of this book.
Okay.
So I want it to be the very best it is.
So is that the next thing you're thinking, if we ever make it out of this darkness as a country, and if we ever get through this disease, that you're going to make this feature? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm working now.
Yeah.
I'm doing a film on civil rights. I started before COVID, and it's about 2 civil rights leaders, Marc Morial and Janet Magia, and they're sensational. And we were filming them before. And then when COVID happened, we started doing Zoom recordings. And it was like watching history and life unfold before us with all the things that they have to do, and the work that they're doing of prison reform, of, getting out, trying to get out the vote, of all the politics that they're going
and also
through.
the Black Lives Matters protest.
And yes, everything. And, brown people love Black Lives Matter. So, and the 2 of them are really good friends. So we're doing that. And now we're sort of filming them as they go to marches and getting back to filming. So we're going to go through the election,
right,
filming that one, and then go into edit.